Ryan, thank you very much for joining us today.
How's it? Yeah, really good to chat to you.
Ryan, before we get into where trail running began for you, your love for nature, from what you've written in your book, started in your grandpa's garden. If you could just describe that to the viewers a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of grew up and being really close to my grandfather, my mom's dad, and he was always super passionate about his garden. Always used to take me into the garden, kind of show me all the different trees, and almost like from a really early age instilled that kind of trees are just like human beings.
Yes.
And just I think just having that contact with nature from a really early age, and even just going with him and taking the dogs for a walk into Kai Forest in Cape Town, yeah, just really instilled outdoor kind of nature and just something I've always really connection
To nature. There's many ways that you could connect to nature. You could drive up to the top of a mountain and look at nature. You could, sit on the beach and feel nature. But what is it about trail running that satisfies this appeal of nature?
I think trail running is such a simple and pure sport. It's just basically you, the runner, and you in nature. And I wouldn't say it's like a lot of people refer to trail running as kind of when you're running up a mountain, it's you versus nature. And it's definitely, I don't see a mountain as an obstacle. For me, it's more something to work with the mountain or work with the canyon or a desert or whatever I'm running in, and really just kind of absorb my surroundings and really use the energy of my surroundings and really feed off that to bring out the best in me. And that's something I really love about trail running. And I think it's the same as, say, a sport like surfing, which I grew up doing. It's just having that really pure, direct connection with your natural surrounding. And kind of when you're surfing, no two ways are the same, or when you're running, you can run the same trail, but you always have a different experience. It's always completely different. So it's something I really enjoy.
Yes. And how does trail running connect you to nature like that? I mean, trail running, you don't really have time to look around you. You're focusing on the trail itself. There's rocks, you could fall. So is there moments that you stop and you look up and that's how you connect? Or is it this awareness of the earth that connects you to nature?
It's probably a bit of everything. Definitely, like when I'm doing some training runs or an easier run, I'll definitely stop and just stop on top of the mountain and then really soak it up and enjoy it. Or even if I'm running a bit slower and really kind of just take in my surroundings and look around me and just be grateful to be able to run in those kind of that kind of an environment. And I think even racing, when times get really tough, I think for me, if I was just running on a road, I wouldn't be able to keep going. But when you're running in some of the most beautiful places in the world, like Patagonia or the Amazon jungle or in the Alps or the Rockies, it's for me, I just really take my mind off the actual running or the racing and just focus completely in on my surroundings and just really focus on that. So I think for me, I really enjoy that aspect of trail running, and then also just really being in the present. Like you mentioned, if you're running really fast and you're concentrating, you're just really focusing on putting one foot in front of the other, and which is really cool. Like in current society, we're so bombarded with kind of social media or kind of your cell phone or whatever. Like for me, being able to run and escape that is really something that I really crave on a daily basis, and it's something that I really enjoy. Like trail running, for me, it's kind of, I know it's however long I'm going to be doing it for, that's my time, and kind of I can just focus on the present and really just enjoy it.
Is it the technicality of trail running that makes you focus on the present? Because, like you say, you want to escape that social media and your cell phone, and sometimes we can't switch off in life. Even when we're in nature, we still, in the back of our minds, have the worries of life and, the things we got to do. So is it when you have to focus, you're going to fall if you don't focus? Is that how it takes you, away from all of that?
Yeah, there's definitely, obviously, if you're running really fast and downhill and it's technical, then you have to completely kind of concentrate solely on just the present or putting one foot in front of the other. So that definitely is the case. But then there are times when the trail's a little bit more open, and I think because I trail run so much, it's kind of, I don't even have to concentrate as much anymore on a lot of the trails. So yeah, I suppose for me, especially if I'm going on a long run, probably initially I do kind of still think about kind of everything else, but it's kind of the more and more I get into the run, the more and more I just kind of think of the present and really switch off from the busyness of everyday life and society. So I think for me that's why I really enjoy going on really long runs. I just find it really refreshes me mentally and just kind of clears all the junk out of my head.
Yes. Even when it's, like you say, you find this freedom in nature and this peace in nature, but you're literally putting your body to a physical test that hurts and that's challenging. So how do you find freedom within that challenge?
Yeah, I think for me it's just because I'm so passionate about what I do and I really love trail running. And yeah, for sure, when you're running 100 miles, towards the end of 100 miles, there's definitely a lot of pain and a lot of hurt, and you're really pushing those boundaries. But it's something I almost enjoy. I've chosen to be there, and I really focus on the positives. And I think almost you just have to embrace pain and suffering, and it's not going to last forever. And I think like a lot of people will see pain and suffering as a bad thing, but for me, I try and see the positive side of it and just try and work my way through it. And like going through all those experiences, I realize that I grow as a person. And it's hard to pinpoint it, but it's something I think I really enjoy, that kind of end bit of a race when, as you said, you almost just go into survival mode and you really focus just purely on the present and just surviving. And that kind of almost, for me, is like, it's almost quite cleansing, and it really kind of, as I mentioned earlier, kind of cleanses me mentally. But I think going on long runs, like I don't suffer and hurt on every long run. I definitely enjoy it, and I think as I've progressed through my career, I think I've definitely tried to start training a lot smarter and not kind of doing as much hard training, because I think physically it takes it out of you, but also mentally, I think if you're really kind of pushing yourself the whole time, I think mentally it also makes you a bit stale. So just trying to kind of find a happy balance where you are putting in enough training, but you're not completely overtraining as well.
Yes, no, exactly. This isn't just a sport for you anymore. This is obviously, like you described, it's become part of your everyday life. How has trail running influenced the way you take on your day-to-day kind of obstacles that you face?
Yeah, definitely. Like as you mentioned, I think trail running is more than just a sport for me. It's a lifestyle. And I think I realized that last year when I went through a really bad year. I had glandular fever and dropped out of a number of races, and it was really frustrating. And to be honest, after dropping out of Ultra Trail Mont Blanc in August, after that, I didn't enjoy trail running anymore, and it just, I was really in like a bad space mentally, and I actually had to kind of completely switch off from the racing aspect and training and just kind of get back to I started trail running for the pure enjoyment of it. And I didn't have any training plan for like 3 months. I just put on my pair of shoes, and if I felt like running, I would go running. If it felt like kind of stopping after 5 minutes, I'd do that, and really got back to the reason why I started trail running. And I think I also had to realize that, I'm a professional athlete and that's become my life, but it's not the be-all and end-all as well. There's also a lot more to life. So I had to kind of come to terms with, after having glandular fever, I thought maybe I wouldn't be able to race to my full potential again, and that was a concern. But I made peace with that and realized that I'm still fortunate enough and I'm able to kind of run out in the mountains every day and enjoy them. Maybe I won't be able to go as fast as I could go, but I'm still able to enjoy the mountains. And as soon as I got over that, I think mentally it was just like a massive weight lifted off my shoulder, and I bounced back really quickly and developed my love for trail running again, and raced earlier this year and felt a lot better. So I'm definitely in a lot better headspace now. But to kind of summarize that all, I think last year made me realize that kind of trail running is not just a sport for me. It's not just about racing. It's a lifestyle. I still want to wake up when I'm 60 years old and be an old buddy and still be stoked to put on a pair of shoes and like a blind tail or run a blind tail. So I think for me that's really important in any sport.
That's really an important part of trail running that I think many viewers could wonder. When is it that you push your body past the physical boundaries, and when is it that you listen to your body to stop and recover?
That's a really hard question to answer. I think it's very easy for me to sit here and say, cool, this is when you should stop, this is when you should keep pushing. I think it's so important to really stay in tune with your body and see how you're feeling.
Especially being so competitive. I mean, you want to push and push and push, but there must come a time where you have to stop.
Have to back off. And I think that's the problem. And I think generally with people that do ultra distance sports that they're really mentally strong, and that's very easy to kind of just override the pain the whole time and really do long-term damage. So I think if you're running and you realize you're going to do long-term damage, I would suggest backing off or possibly stopping. If it's just you're kind of having a rough day and you're not feeling as good, then keep going, because you learn through those experiences. But if you're kind of developing a really serious injury, or if kind of you've been really ill or something like that, and you can feel you just kind of pushing yourself and you may do long-term damage, I'd definitely say back off. You've got lots of other opportunities to go out and run and push yourself.
I read this guide online to road runners, and they suggested pushing their bodies to an extreme of, running a marathon like twice a year.
Yes.
So I thought in 7 days, like the desert races, you pushing your body to that extreme for 7 days in a row. Is this detrimental to your body, or is your body able to cope with that kind of pressure?
Yeah, I think ultra running, and especially ultra distance trail running, it's a sport that's kind of grown so rapidly over the past 10 years. It's definitely a sport where you're seeing a lot of professional athletes, a lot of them having overtraining, burnt out, and their careers. Some of the guys come onto the scene and they do really well for 2 years and then they just disappear. So I think, I've realized through kind of the 9 years or so that I've been doing the sport, is that you definitely got to stay in tune with your body. And because it's getting more and more competitive, I think there's only a certain amount of races you can do a year, and in the past, guys like say Anton Koprishka's he was famous for doing 200-mile training weeks in build-up for Leadville. It worked really well for 2 years, but after that he's really battled with injuries and has never quite been the same again. So I think it's important to stay in tune with your body and really listen to what works for you. But I think if you'd run too much, it definitely is detrimental to your body. I know a lot of people say we're born to run, and as hunter-gatherers we ran for hours and hours a day, which I agree with. We definitely are born to be active, but if you look at the distances the hunter-gatherers are running a day, they're probably only doing 30, 40 kilometers, and that was maybe twice a week, or even less than that. So I think kind of running 100 miles probably isn't the best thing for your body. I definitely would encourage everyone to run at least 100 miler in their lives, but I think I've realized that I'm trying to just do one a year now and rather do it properly, and kind of less is more in a way, and rather I put a lot of emphasis on the last year, just on focusing on recovery and on kind of it's definitely a place where you can push your body, but you also know when to back off, and I think recovery is more important than training at times.
Yes, to sustain your life.
Yeah.
But then there's also that element that you say of all or nothing.
Yes.
So, what you've done now, what you continue to do, are you going to go into the future, as many as you can do, or are you coming to a place now maybe where all or nothing isn't everything anymore and you'd rather do 1 or 2 a year?
No, I think definitely, for me, I'd rather do 1 or 2 a year and all is nothing, and give it my best shot and really push myself kind of beyond what I think is possible, both physically and mentally. But I think just doing less of it. So instead of trying to do 10 ultras a year, rather just do 2 or 3 and do them properly and really give it a good shot, and kind of sustain my career for extra 5 or so years instead of just kind of.
Is there a specific time frame for a trail runner's career? A sprinting athlete has their peak in their 20s maybe, but for a trail runner, does it extend a little bit longer competitively?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think traditionally a lot of guys in their mid-30s, even early 40s were kind of the best trail runners, but now the sport's evolved and growing so quickly that a lot of guys are coming into the sport really young, in their late teens and even early 20s, and they're really strong. So I think you've only got a certain amount of races in your legs, and only a certain amount of kind of times you can really push yourself both physically and mentally, and so that lasts from whenever you start. And also I think just how you spread it out. If you go and race for 4 years and just run everything, I think you're going to be burnt out after 4 years. But if you race for 10 years and you spread things out and you're wise about your racing, then I think you can really prolong your career. So I wouldn't say that a specific peak, that you in your peak 35, and then possibly in your early 30s you'll be at your peak, depending on the individual. It's hard hard to really pinpoint it. Like, I've been going for about 9 years. I'd like to think that I've got another good 3 or 4 years left in me, but then like after that there's still a lot more I'd like to do and things I want to do, so I definitely wouldn't say it's just 3 or 4 more years left in my career.
Yes. And the point where your career started, or when you realized that you could actually pursue this competitively, I love the story in the beginning of your book about the hot pants. If you could just tell that story to our viewers in person.
Yeah. I actually forgot about the story until actually one of my friends brought it up, but I remember running my first marathon, the Neisner Marathon, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Yeah.
All my friends were actually running the half marathon, but I entered too late, so I had to run the full marathon. And being a student, you kind of pretty bulletproof, so I thought I'd run it. And I remember just running, but then there was this girl running, and I think she was running for Mr. Price, and Mr. Price like hot pants, and she was actually the leading girl, and she looked quite nice from behind, so I just kind of zoomed in on her and just kind of took my mind off everything else and just followed her for as long as I could. There's one really long climb, I think at about 30 kilometers, and she actually did run away from me, so my view came to an end after that. But I think again it's just kind of taking your mind off kind of what's going on around you.
Yeah. So if, like, for the average runner now who's able to complete a race, like you realized you could complete that race, and you compare that hot pants race to where you are now in your career, what made the difference in such a big development?
Yeah, I think because I was so passionate about running, and after running the Neisner Marathon, I came back to Cape Town and to my hometown, Hout Bay, and joined the local running club, and they were really keen and interested in trail running. So before I knew it, I'd entered a couple of trail races, and I was really enjoying it. And I think for me, I've always been all or nothing person. And one day I was googling like extreme trail races, and up popped the 4 Desert series, and I thought, cool, this looked like fun. I was actually just heard about Dean Conaz's and all his exploits, so and I saw he was running the race. So I thought, cool, this could be really rad, let me go and do this. It'll be like a once in a lifetime experience, and for me the plan was just to kind of do the Gobi Desert race, and then that was going to be it. And whereas for the Neisner Marathon I did very little training, or kind of didn't put much effort into it. The Gobi Desert race I definitely put like my mind fully into it, and kind of did as much training I could, and for me that step up from running a marathon or a 30k trail race to running a 250 kilometer multi-day stage race through the desert was probably the hardest training I've ever had to do, just because it was such a big step up, and I was just like not kind of used to it, and really just trying to like get my legs used to running with a heavy backpack and running for consecutive days. I remember the one day just being so buggered on Tail Mountain, just lying on my back at the blockhouse and just thinking, how am I going to be able to do this? But it's weird, it was kind of broke training out of at the time. I was lining up with the Gobi Desert race, and it went really well, and I think I was going to.
Yes, exactly. Like, you know, trail running is such an accessible sport. So for someone who doesn't necessarily have the funds to travel to the Gobi Desert to train for a desert race, you don't have that either. How would you encourage them to train? I mean, you spoke about the Hout Bay sand dunes. That's what you had. So how would you encourage the average trail runner who has these dreams but doesn't necessarily have the funds to go to these extreme places to train?
Yeah, I think it's just taking it's baby steps, and it's also I think mentally if you're hungry enough and you kind of really want something, you can make it happen. So again, like you mentioned, training, like I did a lot of training in the Hout Bay sand dunes, which aren't really big, but I did like a lot of loops, and I'd run with 3 or 4 jackets on to try and simulate the heat and the conditions. So you can make it work if you really want to. Even now, like a lot of my races are in really big mountains, so I spend a lot of time going out to the Drakensburg to train. So you can make it work. Obviously, if you like got a really busy lifestyle and you've got a family and kids, it's obviously not as easy just to kind of take a week of work and go train in the Drakensburg mountains. But you can make it work, or maybe go for a weekend and take the family and kids. I think the cool thing about trail running is that you get to travel to so many cool locations, and it makes it really fun and interesting for the whole family. Like you can take your family, say if you live in Cape Town, to the Matruist Mountains for a weekend away and still spend some quality time with your wife and kids, but at the same time also getting a couple of really nice presents. So I think it's just trying to find that balance. But I definitely think the really cool thing about South Africa, I think we've just got so much variety. We've got a bit of everything here, and that's something I really love about South Africa. So I definitely, you can make it work. Obviously, getting overseas and being able to race overseas is really expensive, and obviously it is that barrier for a lot of South Africans. But again, I think if you can make it happen. There are places you can get to that are a bit cheaper, and again, if it's like maybe you can't go twice a year, but maybe you go once every 5 years. You can make it happen.
Yeah, so it is accessible.
Yeah.
So all of this about a family and how trail running can work with a family, is this something you're mentally preparing yourself for? I don't know if all our viewers know that you'll be a dad soon. So is this how you're going to, work your lifestyle around having a child?
Yeah, I'm definitely really excited to be having a baby. I'm very stoked. It's a baby boy.
Oh wow! Congratulations.
A baby boy. So I think for me, through my traveling over the 8 or 9 years, I think I've learned more about myself personally and the world than what I did in 12 years at school and 5 or 4 years at university. So I'm not saying I didn't learn anything at school or university, but I definitely think travel and seeing the world is definitely, you realize the world's such a big place, and I think you learn so much about the world and yourself, and it's definitely given me a different outlook on life. So I think I'm really fortunate to be able to travel, and I'm really lucky that my wife Vanessa gets to travel with me, and I think it'll definitely be a plan to definitely take our baby along with to as many places as possible to enable him to see the world. I think, as you mentioned, obviously with the rand not always, or not being that strong, maybe in 10 years time I won't have as many opportunities to travel. So I think it'll be cool to have him along and to kind of experience some of the travels and some of the experiences that we experience through traveling. So I definitely love to incorporate him as much as possible.
Do you think that the trail running genes will reflect in him, or are you going to try and encourage that sport with him growing up?
I think it'll be up to him to choose whatever kind of career and whatever he wants to do. But I'll definitely, I think from an early age, try and more instill like an outdoor lifestyle in him. I think that's really important, whether if he doesn't enjoy running but he just wants to be out there and go camping or hiking, I would be stoked with that, because I think it's so important to have that connection with nature, which I just think so many people have lost, and kids have lost. It's very easy, I think, just to like drop your kid in front of a TV or give him like an iPad and that'll entertain them for the day, which I think is really sad. And I think like a fundamental part of the kid's development is the outdoors and climbing trees and falling over and cutting themselves and just kind of being kids and being able to enjoy the outdoors. So I'll definitely like really push that, and I definitely won't be dropping him in front of a TV or giving him an iPad to keep him busy.
One of the standout moments in your career has been the Drakensburg Grand Traverse.
Yeah.
Just to give our viewers a little bit of an understanding, there was a record that was set for this 220 kilometer route in 1999 that was 105 hours.
Yes.
Then the record was changed to, I think it was 60 hours, and then you came along and you changed it to just under 42 hours.
Yeah.
So after you've reached this high, I mean, this was the ultimate physical test of your body. How do you top that? What's the next summit that you work towards?
Yeah, I think it's just like looking back at the times how they've dropped. I think it's how trail running's progressing. It's all about going faster and lighter now. So traditionally, guys would it all started off with guys basically hiked and trekked the route, and then guys kind of trekked and ran the route, and then we tried to kind of predominantly run and move as fast and light as possible over the route. But obviously to keep getting fast, obviously you have to have some physical ability, but it's also kind of having the right gear and just kind of really cutting down on gear, and which a lot of what's happening in the trail running or around the world in trail running, people are able to set fastest known times and are moving a lot faster because they've got less gear. Obviously, it is risky because if things go wrong, you need to have gear, but if you're moving faster, then you generally don't need more gear. So it's like a catch-22 situation and trying to find that balance. So I think for us at large, myself and Rainer, who did the Drakensburg Traverse, a lot of that was about trying to kind of optimize our gear, but also kind of make sure that we were safe out there and could survive. But I think for me it was the ultimate kind of challenge, just really getting through the sleep deprivation, which was pretty crazy.
Yeah, how does that work? How do you function without sleep? Even with the desert races, I'm sure you don't get much sleep every night.
At least like with that, there's set stages. So like on day one, you'd run like 42 kilometers, and then on the long stage, you'd maybe run 80 or 100 kilometers. So you would sleep every night. With the Drakensburg Traverse, it was just start and keep going until you get to the finish line. So mentally, that was really tough. The sleep deprivation, just I could see why it's a form of torture. It was just really tough, and we had a film crew following us during the day, and obviously you could hear the helicopter flying over us, and they would stop and get shots and stuff like that. But then, because I was so tired on the second night, I was convinced that the helicopter was still following us, and I could hear this helicopter circling around us, and I kept telling Rainer the helicopter's gonna like crash into us.
Oh no!
And actually, there was no helicopter. I was just so tired.
That's how tired your body was.
So it mentally it's really difficult and challenging, but it's as I say, it was a really kind of cool achievement, and like how to top that. I think that's something I really enjoy about trail running. I love the racing aspect, but I really love kind of just the adventure and the kind of just going out there and challenging yourself, not necessarily against anyone else, like setting a fastest known time. So myself and Rainer are looking at possibly trying to traverse the Rwenzori Mountains in Uganda.
Oh, wow.
They're the highest mountain range in Africa. So it's got 7 out of the 10 highest peaks there. So we're working on that. Still busy kind of pitching the idea to Red Bull and kind of getting complete buy-in and just seeing if it's all possible. But we're looking to do 1 or 2 recce's possibly next year, and then maybe doing the actual challenge in 2018. So that's something I'm definitely looking at kind of going forward. And then just also got a couple of other races. Like I'm really excited to be going back to Ultra Trail Mont Blanc this year after last year. That's going to be a really key race for me, and it's just such an iconic race that I'm really focused and excited for that.
Okay, and any other races this year in particular?
I'm off to Australia in 10 days time to actually running a 100-kilometer race in the Blue Mountains. It's part of the World Ultra Tour, circuit that I'm taking part in. So I ran Tarawera earlier this year in New Zealand, and then I've got a race in Australia. It's also 100k in the Blue Mountains. And then
Ryan, how does it feel to know the kind of inspiration you are to other people? I saw on your website or on your blog, like the comments that your fans write. There were things like an accountant who he said he didn't even trail run, but following your adventure and your pursuits of life helps him climb his own Mount Everest, he said, in his daily life. How does that feel, to know you inspire people in that way?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. By me inspiring them, they can also inspire 10 other people, and if that just kind of builds up, I think can definitely make a big difference. It's been pretty cool and pretty humbling to be able to inspire people.
Yeah, you're basically changing this generation of technology. You're inspiring a new generation that connects back to the earth. There's some things just that maybe you could answer. I'm going to give a description of something, and you say the first race that comes to mind or memory of a race that comes to mind. So first one, most surreal.
Leadville 100 miler.
Okay, tell me about that one.
The Leadville 100 miler was my first 100 miler, and it was one of the 100 milers. Obviously, reading the book Born to Run, it was something a race that really captured my imagination. It was probably it's one of the biggest American 100 milers, and to go there and to run my first 100 mile and to win it was just a pretty surreal and crazy experience. Something that I'll never forget.
You might have shed a tear when nobody was looking.
I think the Gobi Desert Race, the first stage, I think winning that was pretty emotional. Like I just never expected in my wildest dreams to win that. So
it wasn't from pain; it was from winning.
Yeah, it was just complete elation. Like I remember I did shed a few tears, kind of running the last kilometre, I just couldn't believe it. So, and I think just looking back at all the hard work I'd put in, like I mentioned, lying on the blockhouse on my back on Tail Mountain, having to phone my mom once or twice to come and pick me up because I was so tired. I think just having gotten through all that and then to like actually go and win a stage was just crazy.
Incredible.
So it was really emotional.
Okay. The heaviest your legs have ever felt?
The heaviest, probably after I dropped out of the Ultra Trail Mont Blanc last year.
Okay.
As I mentioned, I battled with glandular fever, but I've never I only got to about 45 kilometers, but they're just
Wouldn't
so
go.
heavy they couldn't move. I was battling to walk. So
Yeah. The worst conditions you've ever experienced?
the worst conditions I've ever experienced during a race, or during a race, I'd definitely say the Amazon jungle. I think that's one race you'd have to give me a lot of money to go back.
Really?
And run again. Yeah, just nothing in the jungle is your friend. And everything's 100 times bigger than anything else.
And the bugs and...
Yeah, the bugs. At night,
humidity.
you just stay in your hammock, and you have to take a bottle into your hammock to pee in because it's just all these red eyes looking at you everywhere. It's just
Oh my goodness.
mental. Yeah, I was very relieved to get out of the jungle.
So that's not one you'd do again, really.
No, I think I've ticked that off the bucket list.
Being, in the wilderness and in mountains and stuff, you must feel really small. So what is the terrain that's humbled you the most and put everything into perspective?
I think the Drakensburg Mountains are just
Okay.
so wild and untouched. I think when you're running in the Alps, it's really easy to kind of run to a refuge, or you'll see a ski lift going up the mountain. You realize and there's always helicopters flying around, mountain rescue. You realize it's quite easy to get off the mountain if something goes wrong. But when you're in the Drakensburg, there's just nothing. You don't see people. If something goes wrong, when you close in, you can be stuck there for days on end. So or people just never find you, basically. So it's pretty surreal and really humbling to be out there. I remember the first recce I did in the Drakensburg Mountains for the Drakensburg Traverse, which was it was a really humbling experience, and I just realised how remote and big these mountains were and how wild they were.
It must put life into perspective as well. All the problems that we make so huge, and being out in nature, it must just make everything, a little bit more doable.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I think it also just kind of simplifies life. You kind of realise where your priorities need to be, and I think we really tend to overcomplicate life these days. So I think just being out there really just kind of simplifies things, and even being in Nepal or in Madagascar, just seeing what simple and basic lives people live. All they're worried about is shelter and food and water, and they seem like they're the most happiest people in the world. And then you go to these massive cities where guys are racing around in Porsches and kind of seem grumpy with the world, and just they just don't seem to have any perspective and kind of the love for life.
Yes. There's a lot of information available to runners about nutrition and, all that kind of stuff. But for each runner, it varies. I know of a trail runner, he's in his 50s, and he ran his first desert race. And he says that he took little packets of biltong with, he thought that would be his protein. But when he was running, he literally couldn't even chew it or stomach it. And, that was his conception. He thought it would work. So what is your advice to find, especially with self-sufficient races, to find the kind of nutrition that will work for that runner? How do you advise them to go about that?
Yeah, a lot of people say, what do you eat? And I wouldn't say, for me, it's I would say, don't worry about what I eat. I can tell you what I eat, but you got to figure out what works for you. And like you mentioned with the runner, with biltong, it's really important to try and test things out before you go into the race. So for me, for a multi-stage race, I'll do some consecutive blocks of big days of training and really try and mimic race conditions. So running with all my race gear, making sure I've got my nutrition right, and really finding what works for you. But at the same time, for a multi-day race, it's also really important to have a couple of backup options. If you just take the same food the whole time, after 5 or 6 days, you get pretty bored of it.
Yes.
So it's important to have a bit of variety.
Okay.
But at the same time, just really finding what works for you. So it's hard for me to kind of say, cool, you eat X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
You just got to really try it out and find what works for you. They also have a plan B and a plan C in case, as you mentioned, you think something's going to work, then you can't start it.
Yes.
And I've made mistakes like that as well in the past. I think everyone does make that.
What kind of mistake have you made?
I've also, I remember in a multi-day race running across Namibia, it was really, really hot, and I'd actually run out of water, and I'd had some Drakensburg sticks, and I stupidly ate a piece of Drakensburg stick, and if I wasn't already really dehydrated, that just made it 10 times worse. It just
Shucks.
so I kind of got to the next aid station, kind of stumbling along. I thought I was done. So you make small mistakes.
Are you ever scared when you're out there? Do you ever have a sense of fear or not?
Yeah, I don't think really too much when I'm racing. I think it's more doing more the adventure stuff, like the Drakensburg Traverse, or even being in big mountains. I think there are times when the weather can get so bad that I do have a sense of fear. I think it's more just trying to have a sense of respect. I think I remember growing up, and one of the first things my mom said, or even I think it was my grandfather saying, you must always respect the ocean, because I grew up at the sea, and just kind of going out and getting on a bodyboard with friends when I was this big, always had that respect for the ocean. So I think I've almost taken that and realized it's always really important to have that in the mountains. And I almost mentioned, or when I did the first week in the Drakensburg mountains, I think I almost kind of didn't have enough of respect for those mountains. I went with really lightweight gear, which actually we ran into some really bad weather, and I realized that I was completely underprepared. And I think that was just another wake-up call, that I was really scared. I was really grateful to kind of get out there in one piece, but you kind of realize nature will always be greater than us, and I think we must always have a certain amount of respect. So I think I've just really tried to always embrace and have a certain amount of respect. But I think you go through certain situations where you have a bit of fear.
Do you maybe want to take this opportunity to tell our viewers a little bit about your book that you've released this year, Trailblazer?
I was super excited to launch a book this year called Trailblazer, and it's basically an autobiography on my life story. As we discussed earlier, growing up I never thought I'd be a trail runner, or even an ultra-distance trail runner. So my whole journey over the last 10 plus years has been pretty surreal and crazy, from kind of where I've come from, and then also just all the experiences I've had has been really life-changing. Thank you very much. It's been great chatting.
Okay.